Picture this. It's 2007. You just watched Out of Jimmy's Head, and you asked your cousin if you could borrow Cloverfield on DVD. You're also very pissed off that the Red Sox are going to the World Series. So to exact revenge on all those racist Red Sox fans, you fire up MLB 2K7 on the PlayStation 2 to kick their ass as the equally as racist Cleveland Indians. But while you were coping over the fact that your team lost the ALCS, little did you know that your music taste was being cultivated with absolute bangers like this one. This video game soundtrack, along with some of the other soundtracks I mentioned in this video, were extremely influential and, dare I say, instrumental in forming my general music taste for the coming years. And I posit that you had a very, very similar experience. Before we go any further, I want to make a clear distinction here. Video game soundtracks are very different from video game scores. The games I'm mentioning have licensed music from pre-existing songs and real-world artists, so I'm not going to spend any time in comparing the music in Banjo-Kazooie to Brutal Legend. But if you want me to, drop a comment, I guess. The games I'm going to talk about provided the backing track to our childhood, and I'd say that you'd keep those trends well into your adult years. Because being a 26-year-old who still unironically loves ska, maybe MLB 2K7 was the catalyst that got me into bands like 311, Sublime, and The Specials. Stop your messing around. Better think of your future. Greater still, maybe it's no surprise that as a 26-year-old who unironically collects records and hates themselves, that MLB 2K7 was the crucible to get me into independent artists like The Walkmen or even more punk bands like Nerf Herder and Nirvana. Video games were basically handing out music recommendations to kids like it was candy out of the back of a van. But this, my friends, is no isolated incident, and I believe I have solid, if not decent evidence to back up my claim. There's multiple studies out there that point to the fact that your music taste, more or less, generally, kind of, peaks at around the age of 14. This isn't a rule, but it's a general window to when you are developing your musical palette. If we want to include some standard deviation, we can give or take a couple of years, but what are 14-year-olds doing when they're not working and not going to school in the summer? Not watching Cloverfield because my cousin never got back to me. Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you! No, we were playing fucking video games because video games kick ass. I was just kicking it in my jams all day while trying to be Pride and Joy by Stevie Ray Vaughan on hard on Guitar Hero. I was never that great at Guitar Hero. My theory more or less stands on the idea that because we're so impressionable at this age, that these immersive experiences are just giving us more reasons to relate to these songs in these video games as time goes on. And I think there's a clear distinction to be made for discovering a song through a video game as opposed to talking about it on the school grounds or listening to it on radio. And if you don't listen to radio, you should. Radio's cool. Be cool. So that's why, to this day, I can hear Superman by Goldfinger and see myself trying to nail a multiplier in Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. Like, it's such a vivid memory, I can almost taste the Huggy juice box and the corn syrup going down the back of my throat. But using licensed songs from real-world artists can only really fit into a handful of genres in video games, which is an admitted limitation to this theory, because you got your sports games, your racing games, your rhythm games, your shoot-'em-up games, pew pew pew. And it makes sense to use licensed songs in these video games, because you don't need Koji Kondo or somebody else like that to write up a score for the next Madden game. So with that being said, let's get into some games. So I'm going to start with the sports games because they're probably the biggest offender of using real-world songs in video games, but I know not everybody likes sport ball, so you can go ahead and click on the chapters down here if you want to skip this part, but these games were integral to me. I also know that some of you watching definitely have a preference towards one sports game soundtrack to another, so please let me know down in the comments. There's just so many to go through in one video. EA MVP Baseball 2005, NBA 2K14, Madden 12, I can go on and on and on. And especially when I was a lot younger, some of these games exposed me to bands that had yet to get big, like the Black Keys and MLB The Show 2006. And I think the same goes for the SmackDown vs. Raw games. And the thing with the WWE or video games in general is that they usually had great music to begin with, albeit not real licensed music. And I think the best example of this is No Mercy for the N64. I can listen to that main menu music on a loop. But when they added real songs to the game, not only did it give each game its own feel based on the music, but you could then use those songs on the soundtrack as the theme music for your created wrestler, increasing this relationship between the player, the music, and the game. And if you thought you didn't get enough butt rock in the early to mid 2000s, you obviously did not play these games. Puddle of Mud, 3 Days Grace, Breaking Benjamin, Chevelle, they were all over these games like Rikishi's ass on Vince McMahon's face. I don't know if this counts as a sports game, but any video that I wanted to make about video game soundtracks would be absolutely remiss if I didn't talk about skating games. I won't even pretend to be a skating poser, as I've never quite had the coordination to do the tricks and flips that all you crazy ass people do on skateboards, but I know I can say with absolute confidence that music and skating go hand in hand. Skate punk is its own fucking genre, for God's sakes. But I know tons of people that got into skating because of these games, and you can't separate the music from skating, in my opinion.
I'm not crazy. Well, that's not true. I've got a pen and a guitar.
The Pro Skater games and American Wasteland alone stand to be some of the greatest soundtracks of all time. Like, fuck just video games, I'm talking about all of the media. Fuck you, Baby Driver. Like, American Wasteland in particular exposed so many kids in my generation to punk rock music, but not only that, but a lot of the older bands like the Stooges and the Doors.
Feet flat in the streets, it's up to my knee.
And then you got games like GTA and Saints Row and Far Cry that bring a really interesting element into things. You have multiple radio stations that cater to multiple different types of music tastes. I remember playing Far Cry 5 when I first got it and just having an absolute laugh mowing down religious zealots while listening to Ophelia by the Lumineers. I think I like this model the best because not only are you catering to the individual player's music preferences, but you're also allowing the space for some fun headcanon. Like, CJ in San Andreas is forever a New Wave fan because of how often I had Radio X on. Knock knock. Oh, hey kiddo. Just wanted to remind you to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Okay? Okay. But no matter how immersive conducting drive-bys to Depeche Mode is, nothing will beat the kick-ass fuckery that is games like Guitar Hero and Rock Band. These two game series were the answer to all of our aunts and uncles' questions of,
how the hell do you know who the Who are?
And
what the hell kind of band are the Butthole Surfers?
a kick-ass band, apparently. And through these games, you were able to grasp the history and culture of rock and roll as you progress through the games. Because let's say you pick up Guitar Hero 2 and you've never played Guitar Hero before, and it starts out with some chill, baby, it's a slow ride, we're taking it easy. And then soon you kick it up a little bit. You're getting a little bit more technical, you might want to play something a little bit harder, and what do you know? Monkey Wrench by the Foo Fighters is right there for you. But then how do you go ahead and convince these little gamer girls and boys that a song can be a boss battle? Well, you can because Freebird exists. To me, these games allow you to understand and appreciate the technical prowess of some songs over others, while also still appreciating that each of these songs kick absolute ass. This is a conversation I love having with people, like which bands that they discovered through which Guitar Hero or Rock Band games. And I can just keep talking about video games and their great soundtracks, and I'm not going to have enough time for them all, so I'm just going to list a bunch out right here. Dave Mirra Freestyle, SSX, Brutal Legend, NHL Hockey, Fallout, Borderlands, Jet Set Radio, BioShock, Hotline Miami, and there's just too many others to mention, so please let me know down in the comments what your favorite video game soundtracks are. Now obviously I have to cover my bias here, because I'm coming at it from one point of view. I'm a rock boy. I'm just the little rocker guy. A jukebox hero, if you would. So obviously I think I was a little bit more geared towards games that had rock and roll, but if you're a fan of any other genre, what were those games? I found a really beautiful comment actually while researching for this video, and that somebody started playing piano specifically because of Final Fantasy. I happen to think that turn-based RPGs are stupid as shit, but if you found beautiful music through them, then that is beautiful, and you are beautiful. And then there's some games that kind of bleed between having a soundtrack and having a score. Like, I've always appreciated rock and metal, but I never really dipped my toes into anything super hard. That was until Doom 2016. After completing that game under its absolute ripper metalcore soundtrack, that definitely opened up my palette to the genre of rock that I'd always been pushing away for a long time. Now I really like harder bands like Make Them Suffer, and I think there's some similarities between that and what I heard in Doom 2016. And before I end the video, I have to mention the Simlish covers of songs in the Sims games. I didn't play The Sims that much, but I am, however, very aware that these games had real artists like Fun, the Black Eyed Peas, and Lily Allen to record songs in Simlish. I can very easily see somebody getting into a song or a band because of the Simlish cover that they hear, and only being slightly disappointed by the real English version because it just can't compete with the Simlish version that they've been associated with. Okay, one more thing about The Sims. An oddity that I found is that in Sims 2 Seasons, they employed a lot of jam band music. And by jam bands, I'm talking about bands like String Cheese Incident, Government Mule, Mo, and Breadbox Band. And see, I got into jam bands because I smoke weed. So let me know if you got into jam bands because of The Sims, of all things. And I know that a lot of these games are kind of old, so if there's newer games that have come out that have soundtracks that you absolutely love, let me know. Yeah, these games came out when I was a kid, and it's just been a long time since I've been a kid. And that makes me sad. But with that said, I've been Jerry Bees. You've been awesome. Take it easy.
Diggity dog. Breaking. Dig.